Here's your rewritten version in English. All timestamps removed, meaning preserved, expanded with deeper emotion and suspense so it can carry a full 10-minute video narration. My family expected me to skip my college graduation to babysit my nephew because they were going on a cruise. When I refused, they called me selfish and stopped speaking to me. Years later, when they suddenly needed help caring for elderly relatives, I was still the selfish one. So buckle up, because this is the story of how my family assumed my education was optional, but their vacation wasn't. I'm 32 now, but this started when I was 22 and about to graduate from college. To understand why this hit so hard, you need to know what my family dynamic looked like growing up. I'm the oldest of 3. My sister Rachel is 2 years younger, and my brother Kevin is 4 years younger. From the moment Kevin was born, it was painfully obvious who the favorites were, and it was never me. Calling it golden child syndrome would be generous. If one of them had set the house on fire, my parents would have blamed the matches for being too flammable. I was the responsible one, which really meant, raise yourself while we focus on your siblings. In high school I worked part-time at a grocery store, kept near perfect grades, bought my own clothes, did my own laundry, packed my own lunches, and functioned like a fully independent adult before I was legally one. Meanwhile, Rachel had dance lessons several times a week, and Kevin got nightly homework help. When I once asked for help with advanced math, my dad told me to figure it out myself because smart kids don't need help. On my 16th birthday, I received a gift card and a generic card with no message inside. When Rachel turned 16, she got a surprise party, dozens of guests, and an expensive laptop. When I pointed out the difference, my mom said their financial situation had simply been different back then. Apparently 2 years had changed the universe. I learned early that complaining accomplished nothing. So I made a plan. Get good grades, earn scholarships, get into college, and never look back. I was accepted into a solid state university a few hours away with a strong engineering program. Not elite, but respected. I earned a partial scholarship covering most of tuition. I worked multiple jobs to cover the rest and my living expenses. My parents contributed nothing. My father explained they needed to save for Rachel and Kevin's future education. Of course, my scholarship required high grades, so there was no room to slip. I worked in the campus bookstore during the week and washed dishes at a restaurant on weekends. Between classes, studying, and work, I was putting in brutal hours every week. My roommate thought I was insane. He went to parties. I ate instant noodles. He ordered takeout. I calculated whether I could afford an extra coffee. Back home, Rachel lived comfortably. Our parents bought her a car, paid for her phone, gave her a credit card for emergencies. When I needed a car in high school, I saved up and bought an old junker that barely survived 2 months. Rachel partied through her first semester at community college. Then she got pregnant by a guy who worked at a vape shop and believed he was about to become famous on SoundCloud. He vanished shortly after she told him, blocked her number, deleted his accounts, disappeared. Rachel was devastated. My parents were furious at him, but strangely calm about everything else. My mother said the baby would bring joy into our lives. Not Rachel's life, our lives. Rachel moved back home permanently. Her old bedroom became a nursery filled with expensive baby gear. When I came home during break, my belongings had been boxed up and shoved into the garage. We needed the space, my mother said. You don't live here anymore. Kevin's room, however, remained untouched. When my nephew Brandon was born, my parents treated him like their own child. They handled night feedings, diapers, everything. Rachel slept late and saw friends while they did the parenting. I watched this unfold during visits, then returned to my exhausting life at school. College was relentless. Heavy course loads. Multiple jobs. Little sleep. I survived on caffeine and stress. Meanwhile, Rachel worked minimal hours at a clothing store and spent her free time socializing. No one pushed her to go back to school or build independence. They enabled everything. Still, I kept going. I had a plan. Graduate. Get a job. Build a life that didn't revolve around being overlooked. By my final year, I was applying everywhere. Dozens of applications. Interviews. Long drives. Eventually, I secured a solid job offer starting shortly after graduation. For the first time, I felt the finish line. I was the first person in my family to earn a 4-year degree. That mattered to me. It represented every sleepless night, Every skipped meal, every sacrifice. A few months before graduation, I called my parents to confirm they had the date saved. There was a pause. Then my mom casually told me they wouldn't be attending. They had booked a cruise with Rachel and Brandon. It had been stressful for Rachel as a single mother, she said. The trip would be good for everyone. They were leaving before my ceremony and returning after. I sat there, stunned. They had planned a cruise over my graduation without even checking the date. When I told her this was important to me, she reminded me how independent I was. They assumed I wouldn't mind. That word independent had always meant I didn't need support. I told myself I could handle it. I had friends, professors who cared. I would celebrate anyway. Then my mom called again. She had a favor to ask. Since no extended family was attending my graduation, she reasoned, I would just walk across the stage and leave. So perhaps I could skip it entirely and babysit Brandon while they took Kevin on the cruise because Kevin had a gaming tournament and didn't really want to go. They wanted me to miss my own graduation so they wouldn't have to rearrange their vacation plans. When I refused, they said it was only a ceremony, just a formality. For years of brutal effort reduced to a formality. They said Rachel was counting on this trip. They said family helps each other. They called me selfish. I asked where that family support had been when I was working endless hours to survive school, when I was drowning in debt, when I needed encouragement. They said they had to prioritize. Rachel needed help learning responsibility. The irony was suffocating. My father told me I could babysit all day or be on my own. I told him I had been on my own for years. The conversation ended with them saying not to expect their support if I couldn't support them. I graduated without them. And that wasn't the end of it, because years later, when aging relatives needed full-time care, suddenly the responsible, independent daughter became very important again. But apparently, I was still the selfish one. Funny how that works.